let's transition to the NFL playoffs. It's an AFC North playoff preview, a battle at Paycor Stadium Sunday night. Ravens, Bengals. Bengals are favored by 6.5 points. It's an 8:15 kickoff on NBC. The over-under for this game is 43.5 points. So we look at this matchup. These are two teams who are very, very familiar with each other. And they split this year in their season series. The Ravens beat the Bengals back in week 5 in Baltimore, 19-17. In that game, Joe Burrow went 24 of 35. He threw for 217 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Lamar Jackson went 19 of 32. He threw for 174 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And there was some questionable play calling by Zach Taylor at the end of that game for the Bengals. I thought the Bengals played well enough to win that game against the Ravens, but the Ravens, they did just enough to outlast the Bengals in Baltimore in week 5. And then in week 18 at Paycor Stadium, no Lamar Jackson. The Bengals beat the Ravens 27-16. No Lamar Jackson, no Tyler Huntley for the Ravens. So Anthony Brown got the start for the Ravens. He went 19 of 44. He threw for 286 passing yards, 2 interceptions. Joey B went 25 of 42. He threw for 215 passing yards, 1 touchdown in that game. And Jamar Chase, he had 8 receptions for 86 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. So before we even get to the X's and O's and the matchups in this particular game, we don't know the status of Lamar Jackson. And that's something that I want to talk about, because when I look at Lamar Jackson for the season, 17 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 2,242 passing yards. He's completed 62% of his passes this year. Lamar Jackson has been out the last 5 games for the Ravens. They played 18 games this year. Obviously, he didn't play in the remaining 6 games. And, you know, when you look at Lamar Jackson for his career, Lamar Jackson, he has 101 passing touchdowns, 38 interceptions, 12,209 passing yards. He's completed 64% of his passes, but that's not where he's made his name. He's made his name as a playmaking quarterback. And this is since his career started in 2018. Lamar Jackson has 727 carries for 4,437 rushing yards, 24 touchdowns, averaging 6 yards per carry. And Lamar Jackson is one of the best young quarterbacks that we have in the NFL. And right now, he has not currently being paid like an elite quarterback. And you look at Lamar Jackson and what he's been able to do since he's been in the NFL. He only has 1 playoff win, but Lamar Jackson is the reason why the Baltimore Ravens are contenders, not only in the AFC North, but in the AFC overall. Lamar Jackson doesn't have the weapons that Joe Burrow has. He doesn't have the weapons that Josh Allen has in Buffalo. He doesn't have the weapons that Justin Herbert has with the Chargers. He doesn't even have a Travis Kelce. I like Mark Andrews, but he's not Travis Kelce. And Lamar Jackson, year after year after year, he has the Baltimore Ravens contending in the AFC North. And since he's been the starting quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson, he is 45-16 in 61 games as a starter. So Lamar Jackson is one of the best young quarterbacks that we have in the NFL, and he's a top 10 quarterback when he's healthy, in my opinion. Now, he doesn't have the pocket awareness that a Joe Burrow has, or a Patrick Mahomes has, or a Justin Herbert has, or even a Deshaun Watson or a Dak Prescott. That's not who Lamar Jackson is. Lamar Jackson is the most athletic quarterback that we have in the NFL, and he's honestly even better than Michael Vick was. I love Michael Vick. Michael Vick was tremendous in his career, but I believe Lamar Jackson is a better passer than Michael Vick was. Michael Vick had a stronger arm than Lamar Jackson, but I think Lamar Jackson is a little bit more dynamic than Michael Vick ever was. And I love Mike Vick, I do, but Lamar is on another level. But no, Lamar he can't throw the football as accurate as those other quarterbacks that I mentioned. But Lamar is a proven winner. And he's the reason why the Ravens are contenders in the AFC. You look at Lamar Jackson and his receivers that he's had to play with this year. He has James Prochet, Sammy Watkins, who Father Time has caught up with, Demarcus Robinson, Devin Duvernay, who's on IR, Rashad Bateman. He hasn't done much since he's been in the NFL. So his receiving core is below average. And Lamar Jackson, year after year after year, has the Baltimore Ravens contending in the AFC. So whether or not the Ravens have an opportunity and chance to win this game is going to depend on the availability of Lamar Jackson. Because let's just say that the Ravens don't play Lamar in this game and Lamar decides that he's not going to play. I believe that if the Ravens lose to the Bengals or if they get blown off the field, that increases Lamar Jackson's value in the offseason, and the Ravens don't have no choice but to pay Lamar Jackson. They have to give him the money that he deserves. Deshaun Watson, legal troubles and all, got $230 million guaranteed from the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson, I love Deshaun. And I think Deshaun has tremendous upside. But Deshaun Watson doesn't have an NFL MVP. Neither does Joe Burrow, neither does Justin Herbert, and neither does Josh Allen. Let's give Lamar Jackson the credit that he deserves, and let's appreciate him for having the Baltimore Ravens contending year in and year out without an elite receiving core. This receiving core is below average at best. So I think if Lamar doesn't play, that increases his value in contract negotiations with the Baltimore Ravens during the offseason. Now, on the flip side, if the Ravens go out and they upset the Bengals with Huntley, because I believe that's why Huntley didn't play in Week 18 against the Bengals, because they wanted to rest Huntley up in case he had to play again the following week. Let's say Huntley goes out there and he upsets the Bengals. Then the Ravens at that point would have an upper hand over Lamar Jackson in contract negotiations, because they could say, hey, we won a playoff game without you, so your value has went down significantly. But if Lamar goes out there and he plays and he doesn't play very well and the Ravens lose, then that also will decrease his value. The only way his value increases is if he goes out there and he plays well and the Ravens win and upset the Bengals. The Bengals are 6.5-point favorites in this game. So no one expects the Ravens to beat the Bengals at Paycor Stadium in the jungle Sunday night on NBC. No one expects it to happen. We know how elite this Bengals offense is with Joe Burrow and the weapons that he has at his disposal. The Ravens are significant underdogs in this game. But if Lamar Jackson can go into the jungle fresh off of missing the last 6 games and upset the Bengals, that will increase his value, and the Ravens will have no choice but to give him top dollar as their starting quarterback, because he deserves it. He deserves it. There's not a player in the NFL that's more valuable to his football team as a quarterback than Lamar Jackson is for the Ravens. Now, when I look at this Ravens offense, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards as their running backs in the backfield, Kenyon Drake. They sat J.K. Dobbins out in Week 18 to rest up for this matchup against the Bengals. But I look at this receiving core, Demarcus Robinson, Sammy Watkins needs to retire. His best days are behind him. James Prochet. I mean, come on. Devin Duvernay is on IR. Rashad Bateman is on IR. I mean, what really is Lamar Jackson working with in Baltimore? Mark Andrews is their tight end. That's his most reliable weapon offensively. That's his most reliable weapon. Now, when you look on the defensive side of the ball for the Ravens, they got Travis Jones at nose tackle. They got Calais Campbell as well. They got Jason Pierre-Paul. Linebacker, they signed Raekwon Smith to a record-breaking new contract earlier this afternoon. Patrick Queen at linebacker. I still believe their secondary is pretty good with Marcus Williams, Chuck Clark, Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey as well. I like that secondary from the Baltimore Ravens. But they're going to have their hands full in this game because they're going up against Joe Burrow and this elite Cincinnati Bengals offense. This is one of the best offenses we have in the NFL. For the season, Joe Burrow, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 4,475 passing yards. He's completed 68% of his passes, and he is top 3 in the NFL MVP conversation as we speak. I believe it's Patrick Mahomes. I believe it's, a debate, honestly, between Joey B and Josh Allen. So maybe, honestly, depending on who you ask, Joey B could be top 2 in the NFL MVP conversation. But we know that he has elite weapons to throw the ball to. I believe the Bengals receiving core with Jamar Chase, with T. Higgins, with Tyler Boyd is the best receiving core in the NFL. You look at their numbers this season, Jamar Chase has 87 receptions, 1,046 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns. T. Higgins, a great number 2 option at receiver. Love to have T. Higgins in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers or Jordan Love. T. Higgins for the season, 74 receptions, 1,029 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns. And Tyler Boyd can hold his own as well with 58 receptions, 762 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. I think Tyler Boyd is a great slot receiver for this Bengals offense. But I think for this Bengals team to get back to the Super Bowl, they're going to need Joe Mixon to elevate his game so they can depend on the running game and not be one-dimensional. When you get to the playoffs, you want to play complementary football and be able to run the football and not have to rely on your quarterback to drop back to pass over 40 times to win football games. The Bengals need Joe Mixon to play better in the postseason compared to what he did in the regular season. I thought Joe Mixon had a subpar season at best. That's being nice. This year, Joe Mixon had 210 carries, 814 rushing yards, average close to 4 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns. So I love Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon is one of the best running backs in the NFL when he's playing at his best. But this year, Joe Mixon, he hasn't been at his best. There's been games where I've seen Pirine run harder and more effective than Joe Mixon has run the football this year. Seriously. But I think the Bengals are going to need Joe Mixon to step up major for them to get back to the Super Bowl. Hayden Hurst, he's going to be an X factor for the Bengals in their passing attack. 52 receptions, 414 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. He missed a few games this year. He only played in 13 games this year. He was scheduled to play in that Bills game on that Monday night game at Paycor, but obviously the game wasn't always completed. But Hayden Hurst is going to be key for the Bengals as an X factor in that offense. Now, one of the keys for the Bengals is their offensive line. and they had a key injury late against the Ravens last week. Alex Kappa, their guard, he got injured. And I think that's going to be key for the Bengals. If they want to have any chance at getting back to the Super Bowl, you have to protect Joe Burrow. Last year, Joe Burrow was sacked a league high 53 times during the regular season. And he got sacked the most, more than any other quarterback in the playoffs last year. And the Bengals still got to the Super Bowl. Still got to the Super Bowl. Them losing Alex Kappa and Lyle Collins could hurt the Bengals during their playoff run this season. You need their offensive line to be at full strength. That was the weakness of their football team last year. But defensively, we know how good Lou Admiral has this Bengals defense playing. You look at the Bengals defensively, they give up 346 total yards per game. That's ranked 12th in the NFL. They only give up 107 rushing yards per game. That's ranked 7th in the NFL. And they only give up 20 points per game. That's tied for 5th in the NFL. So I believe that this Bengals defense is a good defense. Not great, but good. But I think that if they can create pressure with Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard and DJ Reader up front, I believe that is a recipe for success for this Bengals football team to go on a major playoff run. Now, their weakness defensively is Eli Apple. I've been consistent with this. I believe that Eli Apple is their biggest weakness defensively. And again, a lot of Bengal fans like to argue with me and debate with me. And Eli Apple is better than you think. He's better. I don't think Eli Apple is very good. But I believe that the Bengals defense can overcome Eli Apple and his shortcomings if they can apply pressure on opposing teams' quarterbacks during this playoff run. So it's going to be a good matchup between the Ravens and Bengals. These two teams are very, very familiar with one another. They do not like each other. And it's going to be a battle at Paycor Stadium Sunday night in the jungle. It's going to be a battle. And again, I'm picking this game based on me believing that Lamar Jackson will not play. He might play, but my prediction is going to be based on him not playing in this game. So with all that being said, I believe that Sunday night at Paycor Stadium in the jungle, the Cincinnati Bengals will beat the Baltimore Ravens 28-17. I'm going Bengals 28, Ravens 17. But again, this pick is based on me believing that Lamar Jackson will not play in this football game. So if news comes out that Lamar will play, I might change my pick. But that's what I got for now. I believe the Bengals are a better football team than the Ravens are. And I believe that right now they're just playing at a higher level than the Ravens are currently playing at. So I'm going Bengals 28, Ravens 17.